Have you ever wondered what you could achieve with just a little more time? Today I'm taking on a game development challenge. I'm creating the exact same 2D platformer twice. Firstly, I'll build it in a 1-hour sprint, then I'll get a full 24 hours to polish it to its best. The game is all about this. You control a character and their shadow, each living in a slightly different world. You can swap places with your shadow to solve puzzles and navigate obstacles. My question is, can a basic prototype become a truly polished experience with just that a little extra time? Let's find out. Before we get into the making, let's explain the rules of the challenge. First of all, the time starts after the project is created. Second, I am allowed to use third-party assets. And third, I am not allowed to use any AI tools, which means all code is made by me. Alright, 1 hour on the clock. Getting this out of the way, let's see how far I can get. My mission for this first hour is pure survival. I am not aiming for a masterpiece, I'm just trying to build a beating heart for this game. Firstly, my goal was to create a movement system which was intuitive and just about good enough. Nothing fancy. Once I have done that successfully, I have gone to implementing the swap logic. I had to firstly think of how to change all the object colors. The way I decided to do it is to loop through all image objects and to check which ones are blue and black, save them into a list, and then flip their colors. There's for sure a better way, an easier way, but honestly this works as well. Remember, if it's stupid but it works, it's not stupid. Now, my biggest issue was gravity. In the end I settled on multiplying the gravity by -2 and adding it to the gravity value to invert it. The reason why I do it this way instead of simply multiplying the gravity by -1 is the fact that I cannot edit the gravity variable directly, I can only add an opposing force. Basically, instead of just flipping gravity, I had to add an opposing force to flip it correctly. Okay, so now that this works flawlessly, time to make some levels. How much time do I have left? Shit. I decided to throw just a few couple basic levels, no time to test, there's no time for testing. There is no need for doing it. And I was absolutely sure that that would work out fine, no issues, I do not need testing, that's for the weak game developers that make errors. I never make errors. And to my surprise, I ended up with 0 working levels and 1 completely broken mess. Who could have expected? But you know what? That's absolutely fine with me. For a 1-hour game, I'll take it. Now, for the differences between the original idea and the concept. As you may have noticed, I now only have 1 player, and that's because I did not manage to pull off the 2-player concept. And next problem was mirroring the player. Instead of flipping the shadow's world below you, because there's no shadow, I ended up going with a single player approach and simply inverting gravity when you swap. Platforms are tagged differently depending on which world you're in, and the only correct ones have colliders active. It's not really the exact same idea, but for 1 hour it made the core mechanic actually kind of work, so yeah. Now thinking. My ideas for possible improvements are having 2 players, obviously. Each character can only interact with certain platforms, blue for the player, black for the shadow. Switching characters allows movement through obstacles that the current character doesn't collide with. An example puzzle could be a wall exists in the player world, but not in the shadow world, and I need to switch to pass through the wall. Simple enough. What I started with, like before, was creating a well-made movement system. And after playing around with it for around 2 hours, I got a nice system going. So I decided to start work on the main menu, which honestly, I didn't really add any settings in this time frame because it's honestly pretty boring and I just wanted to focus on gameplay improvements for this challenge, so instead I focused on making the main menu simply good looking. Cause, you know, it's the first thing the player sees, it's supposed to blow them away. Once that was done, I have went on to coding in some keys and doors and testing it out. After seeing that the collisions are a bit wonky, I spent a few more hours testing different methods of handling it, and I settled on using a composite collider mixed in with regular colliders, which I think turned out great as I am able to walk on both sides on most objects, and the objects I want to be full on barriers will always be full-on barriers. The difference between using a composite collider and a regular collider here is the fact that the composite will simply take multiple objects and subtract or add them together depending on the settings. Now, getting that out of the way, I added some cool post-processing just to make the game pretend it looks unique, while it's literally just a bunch of black and white shapes. That's what I call art. I also added a small wiggly wobbly wibbly shader to the player to make it wave a little, which makes it look pretty fun, at least I think so. I don't care what you think, actually I do, please leave a comment down below. I don't know, I thought it was cool. You know, shaders are pretty cool, however making them isn't. I thought it would be a brilliant idea to learn using shaders in this project and well... yeah, no, it was absolutely stupid. It took me a ridiculous amount of time to code in a simple wiggle shader. It was just an absolute waste of the time frame. However, once that was done, I got to the level design and while getting the first level out of the way, I ran into a few small issues. 1. The level end has no animation, it's just kinda meh, boring, you teleport. 2. The game in itself is too quiet, so I spent a bit of time finding the perfect loop for the game since I didn't have time to employ someone to do it for me. And then I have spent a bit of time making the sound effects while absolutely driving everyone around me to shit. I mean, I don't know why. Why would listening to this on repeat for half an hour straight be annoying? Fair enough, fair point. But either way, I wanted to make a kind of a fisheye effect when the scene changes. So I spent a bit of time getting to know how to interface with post-processing using code, which was painful. Things changed a lot between Unity 5 and Unity 6 and holy Jesus Christ. Everything is outdated, every tutorial is wrong in some part. It is an absolute goddamn nightmare to try to learn it all in this new version. Before we get any further, if you made it this far and you're enjoying what you're seeing, like the video and leave a comment down below. It's free and it helps me out a ton. And after that was done, the game started to look like, well, a proper experience. So that made it time to start making some levels. After getting 3 levels done, I run into my first issue. When the player character leaves the screen, the camera doesn't zoom out, so I spent a little time wrapping up a quick script for it. And after that was done, everything was working again. Except that it really wasn't. The player cannot die, of course, because I forgot about the most crucial mechanic, haha. So when you fall out of the world, fall out of the map, glitch into the wall, no dying. I spent a bit of time working on a system that would reset the level when you die. But then I got annoyed and instead figured out a brilliant solution. I can just reload the level at the last second of the reset animation. Yeah, I know, brilliant. I am honestly still annoyed at myself that it took me that long to figure this one out. 5 levels in, I decided to implement one more feature, which is sliding doors. It was an absolute breeze, I had no issues whatsoever. Sort of, but that one thing was just a simple fix, and I got back to work quickly. And now, having an hour left on the clock, I spent half of the time making the final level, and the other half I spent replaying the game over and over again, fixing all the bugs, which there were a lot of. And yeah, that's when I actually finished the project, and here's how it turned out. Honestly, I am pretty happy with it. There were things that were, well, odd to say the least, but if I'm honest, for a game made in just one day, I feel like I accomplished my job pretty well. Comparing it to the version that was made in one day, it's obviously a lot better. Both the concepts are originally the same, but you can see how the small time frame actually impacted the final product. So yeah, that's all I've got to say. If you have enjoyed the video, leave a comment, do all the magic down below. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps me out a ton.